Hello, President Berger Sweeney of Trinity College and Judge Napolitano. Relative before the World Trade Center attack, I not meaning to, but I'm meaning to follow per the way I look at American history, where I means to discern things left out and made up using how black people's whites of eyes. An exception nature communicates other, and where and how that is relevant, where other is spoken for our founders than the ones who had to counter extort the other founders. For example, why and how they had to. It is recorded that the people that know the most about each of the sciences are offensively certain type of victim slash hyper victim relative to where hierarchies of orders and of ranks and of authority are relative to readings of statutes originally and still read criminally for an influence and shown needs to pretend other, per the relativity of the conscious uses of juxtaposed distinct natures of organized crime with kids and formal ones, originally still, where the private criminal enterprises, the overt criminal enterprises, and the natures of countries individually grouped and together. Not just England, even with the colony of Connecticut, which was still the suits and ties. Other countries were still grouped and together, defenses of themselves, fact, human nature wise. Therefore, defenses of fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature that couldn't defend themselves and afford counters to the real worst uses, the breaching method uses of all locations of everyone through everyone to use everyone abroad, through countries already having been used that way. Indigenous populations did damage control. For example, but everyone lost. All sides in government, in other words, all natures of sophistication have collusion still with private criminal enterprises and with overt criminalized, and with the difference of that, because it has where it has nothing applied for nothing assigned, natural differences were assigned, meanings and applications and functions that had nothing to do with their natural difference. So increasingly, people would not be able to afford discern the short words and revelations that come from using truths, not used for lies, not to screen lies, not for others to use that as lies, and relative to where and how such critical finite details and simultaneous values are left out with convictions, formally and other, with the opinionators of people A through Z, relative to how there are more roles with principal child abusers and how they're keeping the leaders of the kids self-valued roles with where and how. There's only three branches of government. There are only three branches of government and the exceptions and exception nature tied to them. But it is also differentially, but colluding better than perfectly, because everyone has been used remotely, not just overall, with the course of white pupils, black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions and exception nature, not having been used to demonstrate how nature shows. The other animals have, and even insects, two eyes, basically. There's a shared identity that the different species bodies have. And ours is a volume as an individual, group difference /S, and species volume. Three identities are positive to themselves and not. Species volume, therefore, humanity voicings. All voicings for humanity. They present the means to discern, finite details left out. The means to discern. Simultaneous details left out. People have been pretending passions and emotions regarding what people say on the internet because of uses at other locations also of criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. Everywhere statutes are read formally and informally in the form of lawyers with the interbranch at the same time and in all sides in criminal and civil cases. Then again, they have collusions with people with uses of corners of buildings for an identity theft fraud method that also employed effectively. How easy it is to discern if someone is leaving out the smallest finite detail or the value of simultaneous things or the value of what came first, actually, or the value of what is to come, actually. What designed New York City, some ways more than our founders enabled it to be, was and enabled it to have damage control that designed the suburbs before our founders were born, apart with that torture, extortion, and slavery method. Our founders communicated and said distinctly that they wanted us to explain how George Washington was extorted and tortured. And a fact, cheap nature slave, everyone was. And the Constitution was abridged and had to be left unbridged because it's sickly, distinctly entrenched. For example, let me get to the point. There are KKK-themed and Black-themed military of all levels, and associated also with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with Confederate flag themed, involved with the Facebook page of a Principal Bean from Wethersfield. And there are more people involved with him then and now. They have rules with digital crimes with the police forms and wire crimes with their phones. Also relative to themselves, reading statutes, honest, criminally foreign influence. Forgiveness is so we can get to we can get through to the hyper peace, because we have the locations being and having been used criminally foreign influence. These are also collusions. The only time I had anything to do was real fast. They fake exception. They film and show people so others repeat, make it look like I'm tied to Joe Aiello and his sister. I don't even know their name. They did that as roles with foreign interstates, medical community, with the intelligence community, including the exceptions they hide when people describe this. On a mass scale, they have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes because countries individually grouped them together. They have tactical delusions they self-value, where they have their employed. In other words, their identities. Simultaneously, our founders communicated this use to correlation. It's not either A or B. Oh, America's good or bad. China's good or bad. Russia's good or bad. We are in a semi-ancient trap that has applied the identity of each name to systems individually grouped, any grouping that could be, and altogether voicings for humanity. Only want to allow, or they sense that and heard it, and or increasingly exploiting how they do this with where and how they had already assigned certain type of victim / hyper victim, the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, and the interbranch family members, and the exception nature tied to them, like the people on off their offices too, state judicial branch offices, on off the state corrections offices. There have been roles of planting evidence as methods, just like a magician would use little tricks to get the whole audience. So, but we have nature's means to demonstrate this. So there are people with the name Cololo involved with forensics locations through time as well, involved with child abusers, leaders of the kids, and kids with identity theft fraud roles simultaneously with foreign families and their medical. But these are also ones with badges. There's a guy, there's one who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They're involved in intercities, Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, with Taekwondo places, involved with Koreans and people from Pakistan and people from Italy and people from as medical families, also with badges, and ones with militaries that have roles stacking with criminally foreign influence uses of location/s by the breaching method that came from semi-ancient times, with uses remotely of self-valued roles, of the identity of the republic and or of its campuses, as means to discern the value of the Constitution abridged and the value of Marbury versus Madison's definition of appearances of justice unabridged, recording consciously certain type of victim/hyper victim has blamed and is forced, tricked, hurt to blame on other things, others, or selves. The fact, treatment, nature, predicate acts methods, and natures, such as criminal insidiousness natures, wrongdoers, associated with American histories, laws, and natures of overt criminal enterprises, of private ones, of impositions forged by and as, how countries in this human species body of bodies is demonstrated, is communicated, to be communicated about and understood by nature. It is still all these systems that are pretending appearances of justice, or the A or B, that are preventing the criticality of that brings evolution's fruits and gifts, means out of nowhere. The quality of fact keeping nature, quality of critical thinking, how they've gotten away with this is relative to employments of victims/hyper victims that where and how they will pretend other, if it is described that way. If tracing, as we can trace, hyper forensically, having, I'm not a police, I'm not bad, I took any kind of oath. It is also manifest that they refer to their oaths because of how the hierarchy of judges, their family members, police forms, plural, their family members juxtaposed with the police departments, fabricating fake audio and video transcripts and conversations and ties between themselves and kids, and through time uses of that as collusions between unconnected campuses with connections made for them, and with strangers that are in the same grade because they were in the same location. And then some of them, they'll take a picture, because this is where and how they use remotely the interbranch locations and or increasingly the hypercrime scene / crime scenes. And science would have long revealed this. See, because in science and honesty, hyper honesty, see, there's truths, positive things like honesty. There are still criminal insidiousness natures of positives that we would have been, how could American history or any modern history be taught without using the phrase criminal insidiousness? And where that is a part of the answer /s, other is discernible. Planting motives too for when explaining pretending other is the cause. See, the breaching method caused negative value nature progressions, acts in nature that it knew were going to cause revolutions. They were going to cause people to fight for natures of independence and or simultaneously fighting for natures of unity as systems tactically ulterior from this one that communicates it. But why we are these 3 volumes positive simultaneously or not. 1/3/5. And this is what it is more, was where and how one identity of space / existence is making more of itself. Formal determinations and agreements to call space, to discern space as that apart from physical identities of value / value progression. that leaves out how nature communicates, leaves out the significance of it. So we have these means, we have the hyper evidential that we could use to discern treatments of the validity of evidence and of what people say and think. You know, criminally foreign influence and simultaneously tactically delusions wrought / hyper tactically. Because that while it was sustaining that breaching method against Native Americans A through Z, forcing them to self-value simply the same way through colonists A through Z, and the difference of that. So where and how there would be unities to counter how nature is going to demonstrate negative value in its progressions, acts, and nature. And witch trials were, in other words, these are those locations. The location with the witch trial and Webb House, how they switched the name. It's been involved with people increasingly involved with predicate acts who use corners of buildings to have kids punch other kids, to make it passion crimes. When out of nowhere, there are connections between that. If they tell people or not, too, there's measure, they hurt them either way. And there's connections between the campus's uses of this. Fake exceptions of people that pretend. In other words, they're filling in their own things with they even have the rules they have it posted on here. They're pretending passions and emotions because they're also leaving out the other foreign names, but they're not leaving them out. So a whole bunch of people with the military and the exceptions, people with the corrections officers at the Hartford-Wethersfield line, though. One side of the building, too, is touching the Hartford side, and one side is touching the Wethersfield side. This is also relative to where and how the breaching method shows the identities of sophistication. For example, former director of the FBI, former racketeering influence and corrupt organization act chairperson, standing chairperson on that, involved with co-defendants of his, where he can be and must be sued because he was involved leading up to a 2006 district court case with people also involved with World Trade Center predicate acts, with Connecticut intercities and interbranch and a whole bunch of other countries and overt criminal enterprises through time. They're not legitimately with pretending to be unmarked police with the families and associated with them next to Hartford Hospital through time. They have Eric Jensen involved with state police along Route 3 with a whole bunch of people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and Wethersfield police with wire crimes with them and with intercampuses. And now these are people also with the artists and the sports figures and celebrities getting involved with other people's business where they're not supposed to be, they're supposed to follow mandated law. People are following mandated law, have collusions, because before the World Trade Center attack, people in from Wethersfield, involved with predicate acts on my street and on off my campuses behind my back and behind others' backs. That's what they're doing. There's also a doctor, I don't remember his name, but it's a Dingleberry or Dewberry, who did a switch. He walked up to me because I was telling him there was a kid sitting next to me who I recognized, who's one of the ones involved with the Wethersfield police station and their roles with Afghan leadership, where it used to be at the Wethersfield Library, and people involved with forensics locations, with foreign and domestic military, and overt criminal enterprises, and child abusers before they got caught, pension thieves before they got caught, who had timed roles also with private criminal enterprises, corners of buildings, where they make fake exceptions, so that where the courts pretend people are liars because they have roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, with grammar school kids and with middle school kids, attached to fake locations, fake ties to each other, fake natures of ties to each other, lies about the motivations where there are exceptions. In other words, they're just faking audio and video into databases. There are only three branches of government that never stopped being used remotely, criminally, foreign influenced. We know relative to what has been speaking other in place of what these are KKK themed, black themed, and Confederate flag themed people with the houses next to Trinity College on Zion Street. Joe Aiello sought me out was influenced to make exceptions in other words, repeat things about his roles with the house on Zion Street and with businesses, including with the fire department, people involved with the fire department with them, and with the name Cololo, people with the name Cololo further involved. Bob Chase from Whiting Forensics, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He has roles with falsified police reports, and with a Phil Cololo, with a principal child abuser they forced by pretending I harassed the guy by calling back. He called me on the phone a whole bunch of times. They also fabricated emails with WTNH and with upskirt natures forced and other sick pictures of the kids' uses, including the kids of doctors that pretended conversations with me and the kids. And through time, and about legal cases where they have roles with federal crimes with those federal criminals in those cases, even before they got caught. And this is also where people pretend passions and emotions. They have timed roles with readings of statutes regarding how people that run for reunions could lie about the other people. They have that location involved also as the same people with the same families, also with the names Cololo and DeMoro, has something to do with their roles, all with names all along Route 3 and conjunctions to it, like Walker Hill Road and at corners along it. People involved with repeating with things that criminally foreign influenced interbranch families and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and foreign and domestic military and their extended families, all the difference of that. And all kinds of natures of uses of religious integrities and things like that. In other words, they won't go online and be honest and get a name because the interbranch have been switching names. So they have torture methods before the World Trade Center attack, and these are names involved with the names in the World Trade Center and leading up to it in that context and since, also with their neighbors. The neighbors of a Keene family, some of them named Fienza, are involved with a whole bunch of different courts families on off the state judicial branch and conjunctions to it. And with Wethersfield Pizza, for example, and with people and on Two Rod Highway, for example, a whole bunch of judges and their family members on Two Rod Highway have been planting evidences on off Trinity College. They attached me to a fake writing of a letter as the people who fabricated emails and changed and involved with that. And former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants. There are people with the name DeMoro and people on Valley Crest and Morgan Circle is increasingly recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with names with the Wethersfield town offices and elections locations, where and how the differences between the political parties and the value of that, where and how people debate, is being used for collusions, where identity theft, fraud, slander is one of the things sickly distinctly against our founders and ourselves, no matter who we are, individually grouped and together. Again, that also relative to where and how our natural difference as individuals is forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to ignore slanders and stuff for so long with people right around us because they're needing to leave out the foreign names. Oh, he's just saying that because this person is mad about that. They're leaving out their roles. So there's a Judge Smith. There are a whole bunch of families with the name Smith. And there are ones with the name, there was Eric Oliveri. Never saw him out in my life. I only know him from recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, on and off campuses, roles with predicate acts, with like wire crime, mail crime roles, falsified police report roles, and as people with the sources, all sides in criminal and civil cases involved with criminally foreign influence uses of the hallways of the courts, of the databases of the courts, of their homes, of their people tied to them personally, has all one of the has something to do with their conjunctions to the end of the Berlin Turnpike, which is one of the conjunctions of Two Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane, have been people that have been planting evidences, fake ties, roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders with others that are designed where and how the interbranch locations are involved with all sides in criminal and civil cases, planting fake things in databases. All exceptions in exception nature and demonstration of the same thing. And this is hyper evidential. Relativity to where and how someone could pretend that passion and emotions, honest, have explained American history. They have, for example, they were asking kids in a Fox News segment, what are the branches of government? And then someone said, there's not, they said, they asked, how many states were there? How many colonies were there before America? And they said 13. There were more than 13 colonies, and they were not all English colonies. See, they use that truth is employed as a lie, where there are all kinds of experts, no? With syntax that is simultaneously criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, and hypertactically. And the hyper simultaneous is demonstrated by that identity that has all the different species with two eyes. They have, in other words, and it tells us how to explain this. We have giraffes have black pupils, whites of eyes, except they don't have the different color eyes the way we do. We have the same color eyes, but we have different color eyes. Except how we have different color eyes. No. So words like programming came from before computers were. Uses of location /s and memory and words came from before. In other words, while the Native Americans' education was tactically replaced, so was, even though it was different too, that difference is also employed by the breaching method of the colonists. The difference between homeschool, they have homeschool families. They have involved with Hartford Hospital families that have been fabricating audio and video into text into databases. These are people that are apparently, just roles with standardized positions with everywhere, with police forms and things, people titles, but that's being exploited because that's a fake difference. There's fact-keeping nature collusion /s relative to where and how this is one of the ways we could discern things individually grouped and together, where and how together being the value of the simultaneous. Because nature shows us being an individual is being a distinct identity of simultaneous nature from being the species body, but it's at the same time value to itself, where everything is itself, but can't be, wherever the smallest extent of the complete identity of space /existence is, its complete identity of relationship to itself comes with that equally value, and the value of that. They're increasingly getting their own value and volume, which is also the identity of what really happened before we could know for certain. And it shows us just because, in other words, the value of Native Americans, why and how they are manifest distinct from us as regular citizens. In other words, is because and how there is president slash chief is because our founders didn't have free speech. They communicated for us to explain how and why, not to interpret what they or anyone else said, leaving out the relativity of that and of how they communicated to get the Constitution unabridged. And with Marbury versus Madison, quote, real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice, unquote, as I learned it from an accomplished pro se litigant. One of the ones that a Leahy family of doctors and a Violet family is also one of the ones on and off Trinity College involved with former director of the FBI and with military, foreign, and domestic. People on off UConn, people on off Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University involved with predicate next to it. These are also people with the torture method, as theft, fraud, slander method, where the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, and the interbranch use words like rat at the same time because they were caught out here. They're caught with wire crimes and pretending they're reading the statutes criminally, legitimately, but they were regarding what could be typed online and what they feel about what people typed online. Because they have roles they have the roles even on Facebook with a KKK themed Confederate flag themed group involved with medical offenders of kids, the Leahy family. There are further roles with upskirt pictures of the kids and uses of their kid on Facebook. Now there are further people. There's a guy that says his name is Darth Vader, who's involved with the police forms on off Trinity College and on off Central Connecticut State University and their family members, because they were involved with Hartford courts and their intimate ties and involved with other countries, foreign and domestic military. And they make confessions to me about uses of location /S that were also communications connecting what people had done in the past. I mean, what people had said in the past regarding that, where they had people making fake exceptions of knowing me. One's named Cololo. I had nothing to do ever with Cololo and Joe DeMoro at a community center in Wethersfield. There were one exception after they graduated to make it. I pretend I didn't feel. In other words, they had something to do with medical families, with EMS families and military, same thing, with West Hartford locations, and with people on and off Central Connecticut State University, all along Route 175. These are people on Valley Crest Street and on Morgan Circle, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with overt criminal enterprises with Wethersfield Police, State Police, and for forensics locations through time involved with various natures of federal criminals before they got caught, and the child abusers, leaders of the kids, and methods by it. And they have a show game where they pretend things are prejudice, where they have the people passionately against, each other. That's why they have the black themed and the KKK themed military police families. And these are German police. These are criminals against Germany, and here ours against our own, with psychiatry delusions. And they're fabricating audio and video transcripts. How they get away with this? So you have this juxtaposed with real healthcare. Juxtaposed a whole bunch of different natures of organized crimes, right in the places where they have types of experts to counter types of things. It's relative to how they are in the furtherance of it. Even if they made up the whole stuff about fentanyl, using what they make up where they don't have the right. See, people involved with Central Connecticut State University brief or debrief or whatever the news, they're using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie, leveraged on how there are a whole bunch of countries that share roles with Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University, and the names with the Wethersfield Police who wire crimes and switching names and forging names, falsifying police reports, wire crime methods since I was a kid. All these are O'Brien family members, a Dennis O'Brien, a Tim O'Brien, Andrew O'Brien, people involved with foreign and domestic, with lobbyists, people involved with criminally foreign influence uses of the locations next to the state capitol. And I never had a class with Chet Casper. He had teachers involved with the medical community, foreign and domestic too, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, pretending passions, emotions, and with people with judges and prosecutors tied to a Rick C.M. Faglione too. Planting evidences with prosecutors and judges, people with New Britain Superior Court, Connecticut District Court, and Hartford courts with predicate acts on all sides of Central Connecticut State University and the other campuses, intercities, as people who had roles with that through time with child campuses. There's a Lance Cuddy, and there are family members of him also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people with child abuses, with medical corruption on off the state of Connecticut corrections offices, and like for example with people with Daryl Sullivan and locations along Park Street have roles with FBI and involve timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones with other agencies, and family members like there's a Demorals Market in Rocky Hill. And with places next to Hartford Hospital and next to the schools. They have roles with abuses of kids, with people supposed to be defenses of them, and Cromwell further too. There's a whole bunch of people tied to who confessed, recorded a Mr. Neville. They make confessions vertically and horizontally, so you can't go backwards and get the truth, but not for the honest reasons. They're not legitimately hiding their roles. And it's differentially the fault of the Koreans, differentially the fault of Americans, and the difference of that is also recorded, involved. So we need to get them onto paper. They pretended through the mail they had conversations with me, this Leahy family. I can't get them on paper. And or with Hartford Hospital. They have 3 times they recorded themselves involved with rape threats. Also, New Britain Superior Court has roles with Facebook families and their leaderships, and tied to Wethersfield, Connecticut, with the agencies involved with this, and they brought it up. See, they have agencies, they have caseloads and things like that. While they're involved with predicate acts methods, they're making opinions on how they're keeping everyone gone, in jail, whatever, with the cities, and how, and sickly distinctly, and how sickly distinctly, that difference of that. Hartford, Connecticut was designed to unfold as a suburban/urban, tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, demonstrated to everyone's correlation nature. While the breaching method employed more and more the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, as collusions with the negative treatments because of how identity works, how it really works. It is greater than and more finite than each circuit of each computer. Identity's value/value progression as volume / hypervolume. See, but we have that / hypervolume part left out. And nature shows us the value, many ways, the value of the discernment of the distinct identity of hyper-simultaneous that is coupled with and as definition of what has all these different species of bodies, of life, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously the same. Where, again, further, there is a hyper-simultaneous, hyper-invisible, but still discernible, and functional that way with reason. See, we have experts on reason that have been getting away with it since founding because they've been fabricating audio and video transcripts where and how being and having been employed is in fake integrity and natures of debate, leaving out how functional. There are three distinct identities of invisible but still discernible. And conjunctive to it, of hyper invisible but still discernible. In other words, there is even if a verb is not being used as a predicate, there is that identity of relationship to itself that is distinct from the identity of relationship to itself. A verb has being a present participle or a past participle, a participle nature. Because we're speaking about a verb, we're speaking about an identity. We're speaking about anything, everything is an identity of value / value progression. Where and how more and more forever nature is only being made. The ancients, there are proofs, the English was revealed, teaching, valuing too the other languages, their difference. Because don't forget that the different, every word, don't it's in other words, we have these meanings. We have to use truths that are true always, not denying the slightest detail, or we can sense it if we use its system. And relative to it as the subject, though, it is functional, being the hyper invisible but still discernible. See, courts, precedents, and statutes, they were told to pretend, well, you're a prosecutor, your job is just to get a conviction. See, they're silencing the voices at locations and pretending for, even when they're for real motivations. Defenses of that can require simultaneous self-value uses of quality aspects of fact-cheating nature. And as fact-cheating nature itself has criminal insidiousness. Even if everyone agreed at once to stay roles with slavery, because that was forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, because everyone was fact-cheating nature slave. Nature itself demonstrates that it's going to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. It's going to make manifest criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatments where they are fact treatments, names uses. And that's wherever that is, it's a human body name use. So only an individual can defend the order of the finite. And the defense of the value of what came true. It means first, before the smallest finite detail about America's Republic, for example, the value of the discernment of a breaching method singular. That was the use of the sum value of the laws individually and grouped, because that's how nature showed it. That's how nature works and communicates. Because that's nature's identity, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that. Again, as the value of what came true before this, as itself. And no one could make up. No one could beat it. No one could. Except for how we are to an extent, and even the smallest piece of ourselves has three identities of possession as itself. But where the definition of as is like, for example, a part of yourself is as yourself, but is a definition of as from inside, or in other words, that's not all accompanying of your whole complete identity. Each complete identity also has a hyper identity that hyper simultaneous, that identity that we can't be, but we are anyway, itself, that which has the other species of bodies with two eyes too, two eyes also. Oh, vaccines, that teach us things. So in other words, there's a guy there's a Gill family involved with the intelligence community also, FBI. There are some CIA family. People can't lie about this stuff too. And these is leading up to the 2006 district court case in Connecticut with people that were involved with the courts in foreign countries, including Saudis. They attached the fake words with this as our side's roles. But in other words, there. But this is differentially, because we know because they attacked. And Whiting Forensics also has roles with that, with wire crime acts and methods, and with the O'Neill family as one of the ones with West Hartford campuses and teachers involved with the intelligence community, where they have males and females sickly distinctly involved with child abusers as the executive branch, and grouped predicate acts, methods, roles, uses of juxtaposed, totally distinct natures of organized crime and of people that know each other and don't. And the difference of that being and having been employed, were in how the location /S is used by the breaching method, which we also would know instantly had American history not been taught, with criminal foreign influences used to screen also what kept and keeps these outcomes /S and motivations of our own to stay in the furtherance of criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects, natures, sequence shifts, illusions, and uses of that, names, uses. Shock and awe, too. Shock and awe. This makes people counter and defend syntactically what was used and is used to attack them in the first place. And many people defend sequence shift self-value roles. So it is functional how and why. The news and everyone is not supposed to make allegations against people. And people are not supposed to pretend that other people are making allegations to change what they say or to hide. To force equality of fact, human nature, to prevent too simultaneous details from being explained, because of how increasingly when we have interactions and when they did since before our founding in every modern country, there were other names involved. There are increasingly people demonstrating that they say things and other people just to have other people use that to pretend motivations and things like that too. But increasingly, consciously, the foreign enterprise is left out. The method, the breaching method, we don't have to call it a hyper criminal enterprise. We know modern countries are self-valued criminal enterprises. It is recorded where they deny it and or where they admit it. And the difference between that is also in play. Certain type of victim /hyper victim. So we have to go with what's actually recorded at locations. And the wire crime and mail crime and broadcasting crime methods. They even attach me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack, as the people at the same time simultaneously involved with the child abuser principals and deans and family members, and how their kids are abused so they could abuse others, and the judges and their extended family members. There's a whole bunch of people with tied to probate courts involved with family members, like confessions of a Dr. Shub of modern languages, and his wife and his kids involved with probate courts, people on Two Rod Highway, and also a Spada family. I never tried. They sought me out and made their confession, because these are what they have boyfriends, and people involved with judges on Two Rod Highway and Hang Dog Lane with identity theft, fraud, slander, planting evidences, and with people all along the Berlin Turnpike, which has a conjunction to it, and Route 3, which has a conjunction to it, and the state prison office, judicial offices, as people involved also on off the state prison offices. There were reports interstate, or there was reports of kids spinning around in cars near the state corrections offices, which is also a town line. See, people with the name Cololo and tied to them, like a Joshua Julian. He has roles with police forms and intermilitary, with home break-ins, as names involve timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and unions, families, timed roles with corners of buildings, where they make fake exceptions, where they have roles with judges, families speaking fake things into records as timed collusions, with the names of overt criminal enterprises and private ones, with middle school kids that never even see each other on campus. And some of them, they make a fake exception, and because relative to uses of predicate acts stacked in the databases. So they have fake emails with WTNH recorded involved, and they have a police officer who says his name is Darth Vader, who was involved with names, and also how they have manifest now a police station on Central Connecticut State University, and they have one off of it, and they have one on Trinity College, and they have one off of it. And these are people involved intercampuses with predicate acts with some untimely deaths, and with some drugs and medicines crimes, also with the only encountering bodies. People at Hartford Hospital have roles with some untimely deaths, confessions, like with a Robert Reed, who I didn't respond to 2 times. Because I learned there's a field across the street from my house. They use it to for people to plant evidences, because there's connections between people that came there. And the house is involved with the wire crimes and other natures of predicate acts, with the interbranch switching and forging names, as timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, and with the witness protection program, also involved with predicate acts with names at the corner of, associated with the corner of Fairlane Drive and Griswold Street, and Fairlane Drive and Carrot Hill Drive. Increasingly involved with police forms, involved with home break-ins, and with wire crime methods with Wethersfield Police that are associated simultaneously with them falsifying police reports and spreading lies and rumors about people. Not just me, but I'm only allowed to comment for myself. That's why they force everyone to speak with others, and they attach people. They use tricks like asking people questions about conversations they had with others. How many people, if you try to, and if kids tell their parents or not things, they exploit that too. Like how they have people punch others, pretend passions and emotions. There are connections between the people who punched me when I was in grammar school and were putting fake things in databases, and who are involved with wire crimes with Wethersfield Police. Then and now, further with the principal child abuser, at the same time with the news, as people rolls with even cases unconnected to them and cases connected to them, civil and criminal, and with the victims and the victims' advocates, according to courts appointed, and campuses associated with them, roles with intercampuses, planting predicate acts with fax rolls. They have this method where the agencies and the courts influence the campus's names to get involved without off-campuses instances and negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, like drugs, like fentanyl, where they pick a drug associated with where and how they've been using the right to lie. All these ways where they're been using it where they don't have the right to lie. So they've been recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They're pretending it's because of the part of the things they're pretending is because of their roles with the other countries. So people with the name Cololo have also roles with wire crimes at Trinity College and with Eric Oliveri and others with shipping locations, and a Ray Cololo and a Chris Walters years apart, made confessions about their roles with the Charlie Bowes and his family slash S. I don't know at them. They tried to make a fake exception. I never had anything to do with Old Town Cafe. There are reports that they may try to make a fake exception because they plant evidences with the people there. Also, there are roles with the locations next to Hartford Hospital through time. Christopher Walters has roles with the intelligence community there in Hartford, as people on off Central Connecticut State University in New Britain. Also with the Eric Jensen with state police forms and Weathersfield police at the same time. And then through time, they use crime methods of having kids bring up subjects with strangers and then they'll want to have them speak with the police. They just put fake things in the records, where how there were only 3 branches of government, and they use them remotely as projections / hyper projections. 3 ways criminally foreign influence, as criminal insidiousness nature is volume, as its identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that, not just to the apparent motivations of themselves. Like, for example, their kids offensively needed pretended to be their emotions, their motivations. Where that is true, that's not the incomplete truth. That is maintained relative to the uses of the predicate acts at each campus. So there are foreign and domestic medical families and people with the intelligence community, including military, juxtaposed with the uses of Hartford Hospital's databases, New Britain's medical locations databases. These are also people with mayors on and off the parks and the sides of the park. Increasingly, people tied to a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and to a former Mayor Gold. They have roles with nonverbal confirmations of their roles planting with predicate acts and identity thefts and frauds, fake exceptions of knowing they completely made up and partially made up with people and their motivations, because there are roles with sequence shifts. People that didn't even go to in other words, and I shouldn't have to beg all this time to get them onto paper. There's a Joshua Stryker, who's also one of the ones involved with the Joshua Julian, reported on Facebook page of the principal child abuser when he has roles forcing it, as roles with KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, and black themed military, including with the Eastern States Narcotic Drugs Task Force, tactically delusions raw, tactically criminally foreign influence, roles with untimely deaths, roles with all kinds of natures of predicate acts, people putting fake things in databases with them. They're just keeping people shut up. Both parties are sick fakes, and it has nothing to do with logic. So their hierarchy has nothing to do with me. So there are Newington police families also involved with this Colella family, involved with and with the Jensen family. I don't know where he lived in Weathersfield. He has there's a Dearborn Street, and there the street people that live near him recorded, confessed, and demonstrated in more than one house, and people with the name Spada, with the judges and a Judge Killian, and one's associated with a Della Fera family, who have their intimate ties. They spread lies about people, attach people to fake ties to themselves, fake nature ties to themselves. They yell things out like we know them, and they try to get people arrested too. Increasingly, then they say that people have a rap sheet, and like, for example, Fox News did good reporting, but they're not letting any of the news report. CNN did good reporting for other relative to this, but Fox News reported that Connecticut told them that they use states' rights to pretend they have states' rights where they don't, where they say, oh well, this person has a rap sheet, we know them. So they're keeping they have roles with a torture method, which is simultaneously extortions, plural, method, /s, and a slavery method. That's slavery. I have to beg all these years from before the World Trade Center attack. People from Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed were involved with predicate acts, intercities, planting evidences with judges and prosecutors, their intimate ties, roles with uses of location, /S relative, and as people black KKK themed and Confederate flag themed, where they're in the back. In other words, there's a Justin Klavinskis. I never had a class with him, never saw him around campus. They made one quick fake exception, and his wife, Lucinda. I never had a class with her. She was one of the ones involved with other classes with this O'Brien family, with the executive police forms, and the ones with the legislative building, the Congress building, and the buildings next to it, and their neighbors, everyone's neighbors, because this game where and how they kept foreign influences, criminal foreign influences, how could they kept that phrase from the interpretations of history by every mind too, is also relative. Is also hyper evidential. In other words, because and is also part of the reason, part of the excuse is because they blame other things, others or selves wrong, and defend that while they're countering things like criminal foreign influences, like criminal insidiousness. That's why it's increasingly important to demonstrate what is actually recorded anyway. Conscious uses of overt criminal enterprises and of private ones, timed roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fake things typed into databases by teachers and people like Mr. Neville. Never had a conversation. The only conversation I had about him verbally tied to his communications, which is communications is greater than and more finite than what it said. I asked him why he didn't give me back my poem. He put me in a summer school class with 3 kids that were involved with. I never saw them in middle school. The only time I saw Ray the one time on the campus of my grammar school, he punched me, and I punched him back, and he fell down. That was it. He had punched me before, and I punched him back, and it never went anywhere. And it was he has roles with Rick C.M. Faglione, with a Brian Silver and others, prosecutors and judges with the name Smith and Killian, who have been speaking fake things into records with child defenders, including sexual, medical, judicial. At the same time, lawyers with Hartford Hospital and the security with them, ones with the name Violet, people with UConn involved planting fake things in databases as collusions each year of people's lives, more and more, with sequence shifts too. So, and so they've been putting the ties between people, and they have a Smith family that lives near me also with one of the people involved with a Yagaman family, and some doctors with this Leahy family, and the Dr. Dingleberry and Dewberry with drugs and medicine crimes with kids, and they have roles with untimely deaths. And also they've been attaching kids to fake uses of drugs, their kids and of alcohol. They have the types of experts and types of countering types of things and collusions with all kinds of natures of organized crime and uses of those locations and the difference of themselves and defenses of it, because those defenses require to get away with them. They require self-valued uses of criminally foreign influence, fact, true, nature, quality, aspects, and nature relative to their motivations, actual, which is discernible per the relative foreign influences as actually recorded involved, even on Facebook confirmed. See, but they have readings of statutes to hide this. They have immunities from prosecution, used criminally foreign influence where they don't have immunities. So they have a whole bunch of different countries with this involved. And so the Clolo family has roles with it, with the Spada family. And there are police switching names on the Wethersfield police with their phone crimes. And they've been planting evidences on all sides of my house and other people's houses with the Dillon family. And with officers switching names and forging names that are involved. and with the Dillon family. So there, and I never had anything to do with the Eric Oliveri or no, what's his name? Matt Olson and Eric Olson, also involved with state police families interstates, with the FBI families, and with as people involved timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, sticking fake things in children's databases at grammar schools, middle schools, and high schools, consciously connected ways. Uses of those names, increasingly their uses of confessions too, distinctly from the church note, because these are roles with sick uses of religious spots and the differences of them. And this is also where and how it says right in the beginning of the Old Testament, for example, the only part that is important and it has to be understood is right where it says where the names of the sciences will come together. It says the people of the sciences. It's in other words, that's what it's communicated, and people don't even realize that. And in the beginning of the Quran too, it says only thing that matters is right here. You just agree to call the identity of the hyper-simultaneous Allah or not. So we have those sequence shifts. Self-value by logic that pretends passions and emotions. Regarding defenses of who knows the most about these books. When the most important thing about it is what comes first. Many ways. All exceptions, exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of it. But that's just for an example, because they brought religions, they had fake conversations with me about religion too. Then this is a nature and method of slavery that is sickly distinctly against our founders and against ourselves. Again, with natural differences employed, tactical terror from what they communicate, and where and how that is left out from how to answer questions regarding this, or how, from correlation regarding this. See, we have natures of correlation that are criminal insidiousness, natures of care for details. As collusions with sequence, we can't defend the styles of natures of logic that need to pretend they are Darth Vader. Like, for example, with the cop involved, the police forms, and the differences between themselves. People tell on the police where there are communities where there are negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures caused from other locations, from minds that pretend they're about science, integrity, where there's no. The suburbs were designed for torture, extortion, and slavery. To blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, like nature demonstrating. The breaching method, a breaching method is what is set up here. Those negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures were propagated, blamed on other things other than ourselves. Everyone forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, or sensed. And more and more it became through ourselves. Because everyone entertained their bullying logic treatments. They can't defend themselves. And for uses of truths as an identity of logic of not leaving out the smallest finite details significant. And or of what came first, what is value first, truth. See, these are people with mayors also on off Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University being coached by their roles with police chief Cintron. He has a daughter named Jessica Cintron. And he has extended family members with the name Mazzucato, who have also been planting federal evidence is crime, federal rules of evidence is crime rules through identity thefts and frauds against others, from fake exceptions. They do it and someone takes a picture. There's a Mike Roberts, I also don't know, tied to him with that, and a John Maiano. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with sequence shifts relative to the relative to and has roles with home break-ins in my area and wire crimes with Wethersfield police that were coordinated with people from forensics locations and from prison locations who have crimes with their patients and criminals before they got caught. And there are proofs that they put unmarked. They pretend to have patients there, or they pretend to have prisoners there who are really pleased for them, but they're covering up lie progressions by speaking fake things, sequence shifts, attaching people to fake ties to other locations, fake natures, type fake words by implying it, because they have roles with the crime scenes and the names at them. So Sandy Hook has roles with Cromwell locations, Middletown locations, with increasingly with intercities, roles with abuses of kids and people involved with ducking behind titles and things like that, where it is employed. Truths like that used to get over on proper readings of laws and of statutes. So the wire crime methods show that the readings of, interpretations of the rights to type things on social media untrue. It shows that the criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. They have some KKK themed, black military police and Confederate flag themed on the Facebook page of the principal child abuser. The courts and the police forms have been replacing what's actually recorded over Facebook. They have a Joshua Schumack involved with the Wethersfield police chiefs, retired, more than one, involved with the houses near me, with the names involved, with this Dillon family, increasingly involved with wire crimes with the names Cololo and O'Brien, also with Wethersfield police. Also relative to how they left out there the police forms when they don't hear the voices of the street. Of course, it's not about color, but the breaching method made it about color too. See, there's some fake sides with the Democrats and the Republicans with the most critical things. See, there are employments of the truth used for lie, like that politics over the right to vote is value, or that a dictator is bad value. These are identities of criminal insidiousness natures of A through Z. They have blamed what really caused slavery on our founders, and they cite evidences leaving out how our founders didn't have free speech. They told us to kick down slavery against all forms, of not fake just that law against it was everyone. In other words, it was uses singularly used too, additionally at other locations. So it's not just the formal locations. There's only 3 branches of government. They already recorded themselves roles with tricks at locations so they can keep things going before the locations. Where and how it has been employed, them to pretend they need to pretend their appearances of justice where they are not justice. There were predicate acts at West Hartford locations and New Britain locations. Hartford courts and the Britain courts. In life locations, on-off campuses, they're putting fake audio and video on campuses that are filmed 24/7. They're putting fake emails. They're lying about their motivations, where they're increasingly keeping out how they have roles with these names with a whole bunch of different countries. So Mike Roberts confessed, demonstrated, recorded, and Robert Reed, they have roles with the military and with the interbranch, with a shopping center in Rocky Hill and spots near the highway, with child abusers and with some untimely deaths. The military has roles with. Even if they made it up, they have roles with a whole bunch of different murders and connections between them, as being people that approached me that I don't know and asked me things tied to those. And a serial killer before he was caught, and names next to the body dumping spot associated with the foreign and domestic military families. Crimes against our own and their own there. They have roles with the names next to campuses too further. And these are also names with the Whiting forensics increasingly. Whiting forensics, someone said on the side that they have further roles with the middle school, with people putting fake things at Whiting forensics as the roles with predators that work there with their patients, criminals before they got caught. People on off the judicial branch office, off the state correction offices. So they have roles with news predicate acts where the news is about the right to tell lies, hide lie, but keep things blamed on others. Because they have the communities of our different countries with little representatives of them as fakes and pretending other and leaving out the significance of that. So needing to self-value, while they used remotely, shown needs to preemptively pretend they don't realize that they've been forcing the Constitution used abridged as a sick predicate acts, methods, and nature's roles and uses of words like crimes. So there's a Judge Smith, and there's a Judge Killian who have roles with child offenders of different natures, and they have roles of abuses of the boys and of the girls sickly distinctly. And because their roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, through time connected, speaking fake things into records with people involved simultaneously timed with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. These are also names with the corner of Griswold Street and Fairlane with fire departments and with the campuses associated with those fire department names. Involved also with an Inspector Mike, switching and forging names. Also with Officer Jerry Miller on Facebook, planting evidences on all sides of my house, and roles with confessions about his roles with a Jerry Kerr, which there are more than one Jerry Kerr. I think there are 3 involved with Maine too. There are proofs that in Maine they have something to do with the how they get people to self-value roles with abuses of themselves and of their kids, including the principal child abusers' kids. Some Mendez police have been attaching kids to fake ties to doctors, fake words with doctors and things like that, putting fake things in databases. Also, a Mike Domain is a recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with one of the ones with the executive branch of government and the judicial branch, planting evidences on and off Fox Connecticut News rolls, on and off campuses, and religious themed with District Court of Connecticut and Hartford Court and New Britain Superior Court increasingly involved with predicate acts with a Timothy O'Brien, Andrew O'Brien, Dennis O'Brien, and I forgot his wife's name. I don't know his wife's name, and different police departments with the same house, with his name Colal involved with the Wethersfield Police confessions over the phone, and sequence shifts. And this is years. In other words, this is not that far long ago. I'm asking you guys for a response for this. They've been fabricating audio and video transcripts, so we have to get them onto paper now, because they've attached me to fake conversations with the police when I was a kid, when they planted evidences with people involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Chris Walters and Ray Claw recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with a predicate acts they said was tied to their roles with and demonstrated their roles with Charlie Bowles and women in his family, relatives of a Charlie Bowles, with unmarked police forms that are roles with overt criminal enterprises, with wire crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, with people on my street. And I never saw them on my street in my life. Never had a class with them. So we need to get them onto paper. Please. President, I shouldn't have to beg. I never had a conversation with this Joshua Stryker. His friend Eric Oliveri sought me out to make fake exception and know me one time I was around him, and they lied about that, and they used what I said about it because I had said it was a little, made myself look a little bad, purposely, because I was a little dishonest, and I knew that there was the judicial branch, and there were other child offenders and people involved with predicate acts associated with him. And in the one class I had with him, the girl who was reportedly became a girlfriend of that teacher. I don't know her, but that's one of the people you would say, "Oh, I know her," and that's exploited there. That has roles with people with business locations and conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices, increasingly roles planting predicate acts roles at my campuses. There's a Paul Zano I only know seeking me out for sequence shifts, plant federal evidence as crime roles, confirmations, demonstrated this how people involved with Rhode Island campuses like Johnson Wales with the intelligence community people, if they know it or not. And to an extent, they don't, because all campuses are used remotely, criminally foreign influence. These are also people with UConn, with his Violet family and Zano families, also with news locations and locations next to them, all along Route 3. There's also a Dominic Abate record and his family and their roles with Route 3 intelligence community and people. And there's a Brian Bonin, who also made fake exceptions of knowing me. I don't know him. I never saw him around on the campus in my life. He's one of the people on and off to highway that I've been planting evidences, various natures of organized crime roles with people on my street, and with uses of confessions, sickly distinctly from the church, sickly distinctly from the proverbial devil or the breaching method. That is hyper evidential. Summary uses of summary value of colonial and of early states and states' laws still relative to how that employment of criminal and seditious natures of Boolean logic, where American history is summarized. For example, how it came to the point where there were 22 states, 11 with slavery and 11 with not. Excuse me. Before it gets to that point, to understand what's going on at that point, one has to be following how our founders didn't have free speech, didn't have means to get that up there without lying about their motivations. Otherwise, they would have been sensed and hurt by the breaching method and worse, and everyone around everyone. It went in phases. Someone's gonna have to make some kind of a government, some type of a unity to counter all the negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures that are going to be caused by those crazy laws. Onto everyone on a tactically denatured ground location, increasingly dependent upon value nature systems and things from other locations. Tactically denatured, not just for that, for nature itself to cause, when it's demonstrating negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, about all these things, not just the breaching method. It invested all these identity ground names and locations, needs, natures, to blame, needing to blame other things, others, ourselves. Where and how that is increasingly the answer. Where and how other things, others, ourselves are being blamed for things like slavery. Our founders told us how they wanted to tell no lies. They wanted the Constitution unabridged. They wanted all real justice to mean all appearances of real justice, not some fake justice they're pretending because they believe look how people react in 9/11. That's our reason for fake justice, because people won't react right. They're fake. They can't receive behavior properly because they're behavior predators. They're lying about people's behavior and whole fake audio and video transcripts on medical locations. You can't discern the delusions associated with who pretended that identityologic experts spoke for the significance of how the course of black people's whites of eyes and exceptions in exception nature has been taught other. Please get me the name of the guy who says his name is Darth Vader, that cop, and I want to know what his location is with, because they were mixed. They've been playing that game too, and they have so a whole bunch of people from Trinity College recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have timed rolls with the witness protection program is also timed uses of the corner of the street, Fairlane Drive, and Griswold Street. There's also people with the name Smith, families associated with Eric Klotz. I don't know his brother and Sean Klotz. I never met Sean Klotz. Never had just cordials with his parents. He was in my 6th grade class. He has roles with Russians. Russians and Americans have something to do with NASA together. It has something to do with their roles with these names, with the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones involved with identity thefts and frauds, timed roles with union families. So this Bonin family also has roles with unions where they use the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. Timed roles with identity theft for planting evidences. Timed roles with remote uses of all investigators. And remote uses of that, where predicate acts methods are grouped by the branches of government, and they have predicate acts methods individually self-value, as how they could have the audacity, how anyone could get away with having the audacity to pretend passions and emotions against crimes from these locations involved, forcing people not to tell, on people attaching them to fake words because they're lying about the behavior of others, everyone online, including the interbranch, have roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases and the victims and the victims' advocates. That's how stupid manifest everything is. Leave out the significance of slavery. Leave out the significance of how sickly distinctly our founders were slaves from everyone else. And from including the other founders they had to counter-extort, and see president/chief. See how the Native Americans had to fight with each other demonstrably because everyone's words were replaced. Everyone's, and the time impositions, where more and more names are stacked, names of negative, even things like fentanyl. These people are users of their identities, their difference, interbranch too. Some ways worse roles with crime scenes than their worst patients and criminals, even killers, because their uses of those crime scenes with names through for their uses of Central Connecticut State University had men and women involved with criminally foreign influence uses of the minds of little kids. And of the databases, roles with sequence shifts, roles with reverse putting their identity into the motivations, pretended kids' motivations, where projected is communicated other by those pretending. In other words, there's connections between the people that approach me, pretending passions and emotions in my life. I don't know at all. And there are those connections, for example, are uses of it, criminally foreign influence. And it's also a singular use relative to the breaching method because there's timed uses of overt criminal enterprises and private ones with the same names. And with the witness protection program involved also with the names on off the World Trade Center associated with the Keene family and their neighbors that have been planting evidences, identity theft, frauds, fake motivations. That has something to do with their roles with mayors, retired and standing, and all ties to them. because it's other natures of politicians too. So Yagman family is one of the houses next to the they have roles with a Danielle Perron planting evidences with a John Mayano and the Yagman family with people on off places where there are databases, including medical locations, forensic locations, prisons, including insurance companies. In other words, all locations. And the difference between that is relative at crime scene, because these are names with timed wire crime roles and uses of Facebook with overt criminal enterprises. There is a Joey Quest recorded, confessed, demonstrated. People within use of the name Joey Quest recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with child abusers, with judges and prosecutors and Weathersfield police chiefs, and people with the FBI. Former director of the FBI Robert Luskin involved timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, not legitimately. How is someone going to determine that? You have to follow mandated law here. You guys are making me use those names too, not you guys. The intelligence committee, who's going to tell you the other. So please get them onto paper, because I don't have a phone, and they already recorded themselves fabricating audio and video transcripts and emails, mail crimes to hide communications I had with a principal over a telephone. A whole bunch of messages he left on an answer machine, confessions. He brought up more names. We're involved then and now. They made a falsified police report, said I harassed him. I didn't even get to report what I caught them recorded doing with a Rob Rodriguez. He's also on off the parks. People, there's something to do with mayors and people tied to a former mayor, Gold, who's involved on off the sides of the parks with people that are taking pictures and pretending they're tied to other people with medical community. People involved with what they said it was a sexual circle. Eric, Mark Violet, Justin Klavenskis, and some Kevin and Mark Caron. They have roles with parks, like Miller Woods Park, where they take fake pictures, pretend to know people, and they make confessions, and then they pretend the person responded. That's why they were sitting there in a park bench. I had no communications with them there, verbal. I don't know Danielle Perron. She was pretending to know me a number of times with her brother too. A whole bunch of people involved with Mark Violet with medical locations and with veteran locations. See how the Veteran Affairs looks like a city. So if you're growing up in the suburbs, you know. The only reason you don't talk about how the suburbs are taxed in nature, they were designed before our founders were born. With wagons, crazy witch trial nature people blaming that on other things others still tell. It tactically delusions out when they speak on it. That's why there are proofs that our founders put it there. But they're not using it right, because you guys still have collusions with why and how public schools need to be there. And you guys have uses of the difference of the private schools, not you guys, Your Honor, and President Sweeney. So they do little tricks, and they have to pretend we had verbal communications and to hide the nature of communications we actually had. Like me and Joshua Stryker. He's involved timed roles with unions, with pension thieves, various natures of federal criminals before they got caught, with identity theft, fraud, slander roles against me. Also with journalists attached to the campuses, journalists tied to a Perron family and to the intelligence community associated with spots next to Fox Connecticut News and next to the neighbors of the Perron family, increasingly involved with the John Mayano and people with the name Ian, with the FBI, with further child abuse, further upskirt pictures roles with this, and with the principal's campus as time rolls into cities with these different things, because they delay responses to any of it. and then they stack on roles with it where people make opinions. So please, people on Carriage Hill Drive recorded and tied to the houses near me, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed that their roles with a Smith family that lives near me, and a Cololo family that lives near me, that has been put roles with federal evidences, crimes, identity thefts, and frauds, and descriptions of incidents, falsified police reports, roles with uses of investigations and of investigators remotely criminally foreign influenced and pretending others simultaneously. Per the relativity of the wire crime acts and methods of Wethersfield police confessions, including over the phone, and their uses of town offices, and their uses of pretending motivations per how they make confessions and demonstrations too. Fake exceptions of me knowing people. And how they pretend passions and emotions, positive and negative, the foreign and domestic, time, the uses of it, that's also recorded. They can't afford to have discerned what's recorded because because of how they brought the intercities roles with this. New Britain, Connecticut has people on Covington Street. Before I lived there, they were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the O'Brien family, and people involved with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with predicate acts with prosecutors and judges, with child offenders, including medical ones, and like this Leahy family. They have their kids involved with the principal child abusers campus, and more people involved with upskirt pictures and KKK themed on the Facebook page of the campus, pretended with passions and emotions because their roles with the torture method. And they have employments of Black family members, kids, and adults forced, tricked, or persuaded to repeat things that about others through the Spada family and the Della Fera families, that the Kalal family also confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed. Also with Wethersfield Police Pizza has been wire crimes to make it pretend passions and emotions. Wire crime methods with Wethersfield Police make it look like I had a conversation with Stephen Stocco. Stephen Stocco was put in a class with me with a Ray Kalal and with a Phil Paul Zano. Paul Zano and Ray Kalal, it looked like they were being told to bully that kid, a Stephen Stocco. Throughout that class, I never communicated with them. I knew I already had recorded their roles with predicate acts, with names on all sides of the campuses. They've been planting evidences for how they keep self-valued roles of criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw fact treatments, fact-treating nature. So a Joshua Stryker has something to do with the names at the corner of Griswold Street and Fairlane Drive, and their roles with fire departments and post offices and intelligence community at locations next to the post offices, as ones involved with whiting forensics through time, involved with child abuses and with elderly abuses and with veterans abuses, but also through their own, and also uses of those differences. Also, again, relative to where and to how they're getting in the way of a hyperscope, having the ability of having Black people's white survive, and exceptions in an exception nature, to have nature communicate to us things about and as difference while not being difference. Nature's identity itself. Nature is an identity, a word for identity, the same reason there are different names for the word of a verb. Nature is a way of looking at identities, of discerning. Identity has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. As a distinct identity of positive, I think, as physics is distinct from identity, and as metaphysics, physics, juxtaposed. Please, so let's start with that. And please get the Joshua, whatever the Joshua strikers. I don't know all the names. That a whole bunch of a girl recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. When the past at the side of Millwoods Park, they made a fake exception of knowing me with people that were involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, even if legal or undercover or whatever. They have roles of wire crimes with them, federal evidence is crimes with them, criminally foreign influence uses of locations with them, on off job sites, on off campuses, sequence shifts, fake ties to other kids on campuses, fake natures ties, because we're in how they use, how they keep, where how they motivate roles self-valued and pretending not to realize at interbranch locations, remote uses of their roles with all sides in criminal and in civil cases, and the victims and their advocates, at the same time planting fake things in databases. Again, two fake motivations to keep out the foreign involvements with those same individuals grouped in together. A whole bunch of people with the name Smith, a whole bunch of families involved with credible threats of violence on my street for their roles with some untimely deaths. Also with a Rob Rodriguez, whose wife died reportedly by him, but for untimely deaths. Even if that was made up, where he works is also involved with his confessions and also confirmed on Facebook. See, I confirmed things on Facebook tied to people leading up to it in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center right before the attack. They've been involved with all sides in criminal and civil cases before that, leading up to it, and since. Weathersfield Police, with other police forms, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people with the name Scalora involved with foreign and domestic families attaching little kids and their families to fake locations, roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders. So fear God when they pretend passions and emotions. They care about a movie with a topic on child trafficking, because we have our police departments use criminally foreign influence, our military, fake narratives. They want to have the debate get on paper. They have this Joshua Striker involved with putting fake things in databases. Make it look like we had verbal communications that never were. Make it look like I forgot the fake exception they recorded themselves making with UPS leaderships. UPS recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed to me. They have this is they brought it up. This is at Trinity College. They have roles with Trinity College names with the intelligence community, like Oliveri and like Cololo, involved with people involved with the name Olson too. I don't know, Matt Olson, Eric Olson, other Olsons with the state police forms and FBI and CIA, other family members, people with the Coast Guard, involved with the name Joshua Julian, with him also timed roles with the principal child abuser on the campus at the time. And since, as these names evolved with the post offices in that corner of the street near me, other corners on the street, Mark Violet also brought up in his confessions, as he's one of the people that sought me out as a stranger to make confessions. And then I found out they're tied to the same house, /s, as a Smith family, a David Smith and a Jamie Smith, and involved with their mother, also with patients of doctors and of putting fake things in databases, also with judges, switching sequences, tricks with facts, like, in other words, they replace each other's names and things like that to make it look like people talk, make it look like, exceptions, the same thing. They have people involved with violence on my street that are 3 times and a whole bunch of other ways through time recorded, involved with Hartford Hospital, names with the intelligence community and New Britain location, medical locations, campuses. These are the difference between the campuses is it's also people in O'Brien family has roles with all along Route 3. People have used my name. People involved with the car dealerships with the name Lenny Triglia. Lenny Triglia and neighbors of his are further involved with judicial branch with child offenders, including medical ones, foreign and domestic, and with the timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and pretending it's legitimate roles with things like DACA, and their roles with the cultural narrative natures tied to the speaking for the law. You fakes. Excuse me, not you guys. I know it's everyone came through sick campuses. So these are short words that we should have had. We had them replaced because we have all kinds of distinct natures of organized crime and of delusions associated with the people working with the databases and with words like mental health and logic at at formal locations. So, and please get them onto paper. They have a Dean Alford or someone who switched, pretended to be him, because they switched that name on Facebook too, as one of the things they do where they're intercities, confessions and demonstrations of time roles also on off our local where we live. Where I lived to other places temporary. This is where I lived since I was 1. Other place I lived, people on the street also had roles of predicate acts there. There have been remote uses of investigators we cannot leave out of this. And they're not going to hide it because they have a whole bunch of intelligence community on and off, and the families at houses next to it, spotters next to it too. I don't know them. They try to make fake exceptions. 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike have been used with the intelligence community with my name, criminally foreign influence, with other people's names. They have a method shown to them by the breaching method where they have functions by you hear people's names through others right when they're time walking there, where functionally it uses where people communicate and how people communicate things greater than and more finite than what they communicate, and where the relativity of fake communications and fake motivations for descriptions of ourselves and of others and of their selves is relative. So before the World Trade Center attack, there were Hartford courts and the Britain courts, and I found out it was Connecticut District Court people. They were planting evidences and criminally foreign influence uses of investigators, and crime scenes, including body dumping spots, not just of the serial killer and of the names next to it involved. These are also German police associated with Justin Levinskas and the Mark Violet with the locations next to Trinity College, including with names a guy Dean Avellis too. Men and women were court confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they abused him growing up, so they could per uses of where and how, and so he would say nothing about it. As roles with the police forms, with the schools, further involved with sexual and medical abuses of kids, drugs and medicines, crimes with the people's sport, pretending to counter it, attaching kids to fake uses of drugs, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. It has something to do with men and women, his roles with the judges and their family members, all along Route 3, which is conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices, and their roles with the database is criminally foreign influence, all sides in criminal and civil cases. It has something to do. So they have roles planting evidences here. With the former director of the FBI, timed roles with overt criminal enterprise, private ones, and his federal criminals as his co-defendants. And they were lying about those cases with WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves. So we need to get the interbranch on paper and with the private other sources, and we need to get the news to fix their predicate acts because they're not legitimately using their rights to lie. Where and how they're attaching me and others to fake conversations with themselves. It also has something to do with their roles on off with families that worked with shopping centers on off to a highway, along the South Stein Highway, and along the Berlin Turnpike. and locations next to them, who have used my name involved with the intelligence community only to repeat things where they're going to leave out finite details and leave out, people say, oh, I know him. They make that so you remember someone's name, and we don't know them. John Mayer, I don't know. God bless you guys. What I'm trying to say, Mortensons. John Mayer was involved with spreading lies about me that were not just lies. He has roles with child offenders, and he has roles with coaches involved with locations used criminally foreign influence and the differences between them and the campuses involved, and who's retired and what's not. Because we have retired and standing interbranch involved criminally foreign influence with the kids, tactically delusions, rock, and uses of social media reading. So I asked to have a particular act responded to by the judge Napolitano, because they have uses of his social media and of other social media where they have all these types of police forms jumping in. They're tactically delusions, raw. They're tactically criminally foreign influence. They're effectively used to keep criminally foreign influence value treatments of and by the value of voting that has nothing to do with anything. When the voting is for, where and how they make slavery about black and white and leave out the slavery of our founders and why they have to counter extort the other founders. There's a problem there, and that's being exploited too. So please follow mandated law for the three branches of government, Connecticut, involved with this too, President Sweeney and Judge Napolitano, and regarding their narratives by what they feel about what people write on Facebook. I caught them. You'll see. Box Inc. They've been replacing what's recorded and making things up. All kinds of natures of wire crime acts and methods. You'll discern. Forgiveness is not just to counter the same way. The forgiveness to show how the location /S are used. Increasingly, a whole bunch of people involved with the streets around me and the names around me in that same house with sequence shifts and wire crimes with Wethersfield Police. Please get them on paper and respond. And if they and regarding their fake words with me, switching names, confessions regarding that, and regarding the police chief Centron. There was one or more years ago, also tied to 80 Carriage Hill Drive, which is one of the locations where the name's Cololo. I don't know where the Phil Cololo lives, but there is a Bob Chase who confessed to him. He was supposed to read a police report to me. He didn't read it to me. These people put fake things and fake intentions and motivations to databases while they are tactically illusions raw. Get those courts. Various courts are involved with child abusers, with writing forensics and police forms juxtaposed with the Wethersfield Police, with this Bob Chase as roles, also with other natures of organized crime and names associated with home break-ins through time. And that increasingly the corner of Fairlane and Carriage Hill, and then corner of Grizzle Street and Fairlane, with names involved with this Joshua Stryker, with names involved with the foreign and domestic military, identity theft, fraud, slanders, people faking, including Kathy Shatanzi. Please get them on paper, one name in sequence. Let's go with the Ray Cololo and the Smith families. And there's people with the name, what's his name? They're more recorded. They recorded themselves. What's his name? Christopher Cullen has roles with the intelligence community, criminally foreign influence, and with people with the World Trade Center and the court next to it. They have roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, as roles with the investigators used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and roles with a whole bunch of boyfriends associated with Heather Hansen, involved with people involved with abuses of little girls with overt criminal enterprises, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and sequence shifts, fake passions and emotions, fake motivations, narratives. No, I never saw him on a campus in my life. The only time I saw him, he recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. What you're going to see is recorded, which is timed uses of the witness protection program, and then years again later too. Same people involved with other natures of cases in the World Trade Center. They posted it from inside the Ninth Circuit to make things appear late to the panel of judges right before the World Trade Center attack. From inside the court, that was proven after it. It led to a 2006 that was in Manhattan, right next to the World Trade Center. It was right before they were taken out. That proven after the attack led to a 2006 district court case. People on all sides of those cases I had recorded and asked for help regarding their confessed, demonstrated roles of predicate acts against me and others on off Central Connecticut State University as collusions with men and women at that location, involved intercities with child campuses through time use, criminally foreign influence. Fear God, please get on paper fast. Start class, boxing.